Hi, good morning, everybody. Rather, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Raman Kumar, and welcome to our channel that is People's Reaction and Anaya Animation. So, we'll be discussing about the ITIL infrastructure, infrastructure library, what advancement we have in new version that is ITIL 4, what is the new thing, we'll compare it with V3 in terms of what difference we have in ITIL V4 if you compare it with V3. So, what advancement we have, what key changes we have, we'll discuss it out. So before we go ahead, I want to run a disclaimer that this session would be quite useful for somebody who's already aware of ITL fundamentals. In case you're already working in an ITL company, either product or service-based companies, that will make you understand some key topics. In case you're not familiar with ITL, I would say drop off because and in case you find that this is sort of very useful for you, you like to have a similar understanding or videos to understand ITL from basic, comment there down below section. We'll try and make it another uh, tutorial for you to give you insight what ITL is all about, what all ITL is used for, what is the future scope, and all these things. So, so let me go ahead after disclaimer. So I'm talking about here the why ITL V4 was required and what advancement it has. So what I find is ITL, the new version of ITL V4 does have some, you know, some learnings from DevOps, from Agile like frameworks. In particularly, I would say Scrum kind of one where we divide every a big site innovation into small chunks. That's called sprint. So I see new advancements in ITL V4. They have a little bit of a touch. They want to, you know, touching the periphery of Agile a bit. So that we have in ITL V4 that was some sort of a area that was not covered in the earlier version that was ITL V3, launched in 2007, last revised in 2011. So that we have. So so next in the list we'll say what new features we have. I want to discuss this piece that we'll try and discuss it, what new we have in ITL V4. The first thing first, this session would be covering up ITL V4 through the spectrum ITL V3. So we'll see the key changes, anything and everything on this one. So let's go to see what do we have here. I've also covered the key features, key process or practices in the new terminology V4 says process as a practices. So we'll discuss that in this session also, the major changes, key changes. So we'll first thing first, we'll try and see the ITIL history first and where we stand as of now. So ITIL V1 was launched in 1980, where only e-commerce department of UK government was practicing best practices acquired from other industry, and they came up with a formalized version of the best practices that we call ITIL V1, launched in 1980. And then V2 came up, kind of revision in the last version after 21 years, 2001, and ITIL V3 came into prominence in 2007, and latest release of ITIL V3 was seen in 2011. So from ITL 2011, in 11, it stayed for almost 8 years. And after that, you had 2019 V4 was launched. So as we are in 2021, so your certification if you're acquiring for V3 is already crossed its path. So you need to renew it. You need to do some certain advancement to make it aligned to the V4, or you need to do the bridge course so you can directly go for V4 directly. So you need to take the decision now. It's time actually. It was valid till June 2020. So we already crossed that benchmark. So everybody who has this ITL V3 from any of the providers, any of the institution that provides you that kind of certification, you need to now take a decision to renew that. So next, after this ITL version, which came into prominence in 2019 September, we'll see what does this version talk about. If we compare this from the older version that was ITIL V3. So first thing first, I have captured the main differences that we have in ITIL V4, comparing it with ITIL V3. So first thing first is the life cycle based approach that we had, a module based approach, 5 different modules we had: service design, strategy design, and then you had transition operations, continuous improvement. All these things are converted into service value systems. Old terminology was module based, now this is service value system based. Second difference we have is the under number of processes that we have. In the earlier version of ITIL V3, we had 26 processes. Now in the latest edition of ITIL V4, we have 34 practices. These practices are a little broader, I would say, in a way. It's more standardized they have done. As an example, actually, I would say we have ITIL V3 has a process called capacity. Now it's capacity and measurement reporting. So a little bit of more standardization they have done it. So process now become practices here. Numbers are 34 now instead of 26. That is 8 more than we have. Now key differences in the principle is we had 9 principle before, now 7 principle reduced to in ITIL V4. Plus one of the key differences I would say is 4P principle that we have before now becomes 4-dimensional view in ITIL V4. 4P, people, process, partners, and products we had earlier. So now likewise, now this becomes organization and people, information technology, partner, supplier remains same, the value streams. These 4 divisions I have. So these are the key changes. I would say 5 different changes that I have called out here. That I have called it out here. So in case you want to take a look at each of them, we have discussed it in the later section. So we'll see the now if somebody wants to summarize the ITIL V4 in a quick succession, what would that be? So in a very layman language, I would say, very layman terms, very short, very concise, I would say ITIL V4 is a combination of 4-dimensional model plus SVS. So 4-dimensional model, don't get confused. We had 4P principle before. If you remember, ITIL V3 has 4P principle plus the life cycle model or module based steps. Together we used to call it as ITIL V3. Now in ITIL V4, that 4P becomes 4-dimensional model. Plus here in the modules, you had 5 modules, now it becomes SVS. So ITIL V4 is that only. Combination of these two, 4-dimensional view plus SVS system. Now what SVS service value system is divided into 5 subgroups, has 5 subdivisions, which is shown on the right side, actually: guiding principles, governance, service value chain, continual improvement practices. Here the takeaway is that service value systems here is kind of broader term, which is further divided to 6 different steps. We'll discuss it later. But yeah, a little bit here, service value chain. If you see from the top, the upper diagram that we have, the guiding principle, governance, service value chain, practices, and continual improvement. Now, this service value chain, the 6th step that I said is here: demand, engage, obtain, build, develop, support, product, services, and values. Now, that SVS has a term inside that called service value chain. Service value chain is further subdivided into 6 different steps to manage your service provisioning in a much better way. Yeah, so that are the key changes, I would say. Let's go to the next one. Mhm. Now, just to remind you that 4P principle that we had, that I wanted to emphasize here a bit so that at least you will have a better view, not only the chart based, but a little bit more exclusive. uh, emphasize on this. So this 4P principle is now organization and people, information technology, partners and suppliers, and service value streams. Now these are, if you see the outer boundary, these are the factors that is impacting this 4P, four-dimensional view of ITIL V4. The political factor, economical factor, social and transfer. But this is the main core, I would say, core difference here we should be looking at is the four-dimensional view this ITIL V4 offers you. The next in the slide, I wanted to compare the process-wise. As I said, like 26 we had processes in ITIL V3, now become 34, 8 more than ITIL V3, and now process become practices. This is the old model where you have 5 different modules available, life cycle based. One walks in when you have second already completed. Service strategy, main functions or process described as here. Service design, service transition, service operation. I remember that if you remember, we had 4 function inside service design. Service desk, service operation, sorry, not design, service operation. We had service desk, technical management, IT operation, and application management. These are 4 functions we had. So these functions are no longer valid in the new terms. Now, in the new ITIL V4, new advancement of ITIL, these processes become practices. All these practices, 34 practices, are divided, rather subdivided into 3 sections here, and it's not fading away. I would say in a way, it still has a significance. Now, these 3, the broader categorization is general management practices, service management practices, and the technical management process. So in a general management practices, you have 11 different practices, right? In service management, likewise, have 17 practices. And the key changes here, what I've seen is probably like to emphasize here in case you want to know that what difference we have. And do we have any difference other than the name suggests process become practices? Yeah. If you look at the first box of first outline of service management practices, capacity and performance management comes into picture. We had earlier it was only this the capacity management where capacity functionality were described, but everybody was aware that the capacity is doing sort of measurement also to see that how does a particular CI performs over a period of time. Actually, they pull up a report to see that the capacity measurements. So now that is more formalized here. Likewise, if we look at this, that release and deploy was a single one, but it is now bifurcated. Release is different here. If you can see that. Now, in the technical management process, deployment management, infrastructure platform management, software development management. So what I say is, what I probably I observed is when I looked at it, so ITIL was more like for service or product based companies. When I was barely practiced by software based company. They're using rather CMM maturity models and the models they used to use. Now, this ITIL V4 gives software industry also kind of edge to use this ITIL terminologies. So that's what I could figure out, yeah. So let's see what do we have in the next segment. So remember 26 becomes 34 here. So you have 8 more practices included. Now, as I said, there are major 5 differences that I've shown you in the first slide. I am emphasizing here what all changes we have. So go to the second one, which is ITL practices. It's now divided into 3 sections: technical, general management, service management, and technical management. You can only bifurcate this in case general management will be serving the general purpose. Service management in case you are more sort of industry where this is extensively ITIL has to be used. You can use the combo, and the technical management in case you have broadly into service provisioning sectors. Probably you'll be using all 3 practices together. So this is what it is. So in terms of ITIL qualification, to qualify for ITIL experts, we have different roadmap together. If you see the right one, ITIL foundation remains same. Then ITIL specialist has 3 different division. You can go to create, deliver, stakeholder value, high value IT. You can choose either of them. either of these three. Once you have this one, you can go for ITIL strategic leader. For to be a ITIL strategic leader, you need to have ITIL strategist plus another module you need to do, that is digital and IT strategy. And after that, you can directly go for ITIL man master. So this is what we have. Do comment, subscribe if you find that this information is quite valuable to you and this can add value to the information that you already possess. So thank you so much for joining in. See you again.